Hello, welcome to Matters of DeCorum. I'm Scott Corum. This is what matters to me. I want to talk about dice and dice mechanics. It might get a little dry and probability-ish, but it has been bugging me. In a role-playing game, almost all, not all of them, rely on the use of dice to provide an element of chance in a game. You're using numbers to compare values to opportunities for success, and somewhere in that mechanic, generally you need a random number generated within a certain range so you can determine whether or not something that had a possibility of failure was in fact a success or a failure. Now, I'm going to drive across town. Well, it seems like a good time of day for it, and you're not trying to go too fast or do anything crazy. You're a good driver, sure, you drive across town. I'm going to try and drive across town at 100 miles an hour through the most densely populated area, going up on the sidewalks when I have to, or maybe jumping a couple. Oh, you're going to have to give me a driving roll on that. Where there is a chance of failure, there is a need for a random number generated. That is the dice job. The dice is not your friend. The dice is not your enemy. The dice is going to be what a dice is designed to be, random. Unless that dice is in fact weighted or altered so as to give a specific result. With that caveat, the die is random. It will never seem like that, but the die is random. I've got a little bit of a problem with certain dice mechanics. Say you've got a percentile system is fairly straightforward and results in a easy to calculate opportunity for success or failure given a particular task. The Call of Cthulhu game by Chaosium, their system is stunningly brilliant. You have a percentage chance for a certain skill to exist. You roll percentile die, 2 die 10, one of which may be marked in tens as opposed to 1 through 10, to generate a number from 1 to 100, that being a double odd. And in Call of Cthulhu, the lower the number you roll, if you have a 75% chance to succeed at a task, you're really good at that task in that system, you roll 75 or below on percentile dice, you have succeeded that task. If it's a very difficult task, you might have to roll half that or a quarter of that to succeed, which is harder, but you still have a chance to do it, and you know what that chance is. That means a 25% chance to fail. That means you are going to fail that skill about a quarter of the time, which is an acceptable set of odds if you have a desperate situation and it's all or nothing. Do you take the chance? Well, yeah, you take the chance. 75% chance, not that bad. I'll roll 50-50 or less if there is a chance. You get to the D20 system, or most D20 based systems, Dungeons and Dragons from 3 on, you roll your D20 and you are trying to, you add bonuses to it, you're trying to hit a specific number, whether it's a monster's armor class or a difficulty. I need to hit a 15 to do this. Well, I roll a d20 and I add my 7. 8 or better, that's fine. That means that anything from 8 to 20 or 12 of those numbers, 60% chance, yeah, that seems pretty reasonable. We can do that. When you can easily calculate the odds, I'm good with that, because I know whether I should roll or not, or try or not. It also means I understand how good my character is at something. Under stress, this character is going to succeed at this task 80% of the time. That's a good character. Under stress, this character is going to fail at this task 80% of the time. Maybe that's not the role I pick in combat. Dice systems can get very clever. There are a lot of different dice systems. That is not to say they are good. That is to say they can be clever. My favorite Heartbreaker RPG, Cthulhu Tech, has two types of reviews. If you read through the reviews for it, type number one, this looks amazing, I can't wait to try it, this should be really fantastic when I play it. Number two, oh my god, I rolled dice in this system and I think my eyes are bleeding, what the hell was that? Cthulhu Tech used a success system that allowed you to roll a certain number of 10-sided dice, but you weren't going for a total or looking for a result number. You were going for straights and pairs. You were trying to get, if you had more than one die show up the same number, you got to add those in. Or if you had a run of dice, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you could add that together. It was trying to combine poker and role-playing games. And while I can see systems where that would work, it made it impossible to calculate a character. It didn't matter how many dice you had. You've got a luck statistic, you can throw another dice in there as if that mattered. You got another opportunity to get another random result that may or may not resonate with your other random result. And then you had to take a considerable amount of time to figure out what the result of your roll was. Or, if you're half the people in the game that I played, so, this is what I rolled. What did I get? Dice pool mechanics can work just fine. World of Darkness. I prefer the more recent version. Second edition, you have a certain number of 10-sided dice based on your statistic and your skill, and you rolled that, and the game master would give you a number that you needed to hit. And every die that you hit for that number, your difficulty is a 5. Well, I've got 7 dice to roll. I roll them, and every 5 or better that I come up with is a success. If I roll a 10, that explodes. I get to roll it again and see if I get 5 or better again. More recent editions of World of Darkness have a flat 6 or 7 as your success number, so the game master doesn't have to calculate the difficulty for the task on the fly. Not like that. He can call for a certain, you need 3 successes to beat this, you need 5 successes to beat this for something very difficult, but it doesn't have to keep varying the number that you're looking for, which makes for a little bit smoother and more consistent play, I find. And I can generally work out, okay, if I'm going to succeed at this at a very difficult level, I need to routinely have 5 or 6 dice, if not 7 or more, in order to be competent at something. When I see a new system, I look for the dice mechanics. Because they tell me, is this a game where I'm supposed to know how I'm going to do by the end of it or not? I played a lot of One Ring with my Manhattan Beach group, which has a very interesting system. You roll a number of 6-sided dice that is equal to your skill in a particular task or weapon, and you roll an additional special 12-sided dice. You add the number. You add all the numbers together. 6s on the 6-sided dice, or Tanglors, are exceptional successes. If you hit that 1 in 6 chance on that, fine. That's awesome. The 12-sided dice, the 12 on the die face is a Gandalf rune, and if a good character or a player character gets that on that die, then it's a success, or it's something special happens. The forces of good have smiled on you, and you are you're doing exceptionally well. The 11 is the Eye of Sauron. And if you hit that on the die for a good character or PC, then something terrible has happened and it counts as a 0. It makes play fascinating and interesting and really, really random. If you want to make a called shot, you need to hit a Tanglor. You need to hit your target number to hit something, and you need a 6 on one of your 6-sided dice. I had a character I was playing it this weekend. Maxed bow skill for a starting character. Budget Legolas, wood elf. And we were fighting something that we could not kill with regular damage. It was called shots, or you weren't doing what you needed to do to take it down. So I proceeded to spend an entire fight missing. I summoned the Eye of Sauron 3 times out of 5 rolls. For this character who had maxed out a starting character's ability to be effective in combat, he was not only ineffective in combat, but detrimental to the party as a whole, because his combined failures with that Eye of Sauron on the D12 caused the hunt for the party to intensify, and we had drawn the attentions of the Dark Lord himself. Fascinating, random, and if I may say so, bullshit. Game designers have occasionally come up with the concept that there needs to be a trap in the dice, that there needs to be something in the die that makes things exceptionally bad, where you have special dice with a bad symbol on it, or if you get this result, you roll an extra die. You roll all the regular dice you need to roll, but you roll an extra die because that die might come up as something that's going to make you fail. These game designers have never rolled dice in a role-playing game, I can only assume. Because they believe, somehow, that the dice alone aren't going to screw you. If you have sat down at a table with people and rolled dice to make fictional characters do things, you understand sometimes the dice just screw you. They don't need any help, in my opinion. We want to increase the chance of failure in a role-playing game. Why? Failure is in and of itself a terrible thing sometimes. You can make failures work for you. Failures are important to stories. If, Yojimbo is one of the most classic storyline plots of the Japanese cinematic universe. It's been remade into Fistful of Dollars and Last Man Standing and Omega Doom. And in it, your main character has a downfall caused by failures that makes the whole plot this amazing roller coaster ride. Failures are important. Nobody rolls dice to fail. I do not need help failing in a role-playing game. I like the process of, I make a character. In one or two areas, that character is extremely competent. That means the character has less chance to fail. The interlock system. Cyberpunk 2020 was written in the interlock system. And the original Mechton, where you have your stat plus your skill plus the roll of 1 die 10 in order to see if you succeed. And 20% of the time, the dice, your skills and your stat were completely irrelevant. Roll a 10, you succeed. Roll a 1, you fail. That means you fail 10% of the time, no matter how good you are. In a role-playing game, that can seem kind of reasonable. A 1 in 10, it's not that bad, except you're never going to roll that 1 once out of every 10 rolls. You're going to roll it 3 times out of every 10 rolls, because that's what dice do to you. And Ask an airline pilot if one critical failure out of every 10 attempts to use a skill is an acceptable number. Or a surgeon. Or a welder. Nope, 1 out of every 10 times you just completely blow it. Doesn't matter how good you are. I look at a number like that and I understand, okay, well, the chance of failure always has to be there. Maybe a 1 to 10 flatline distribution on a single die isn't what you're looking for. I like GURPS. The generic universal role-playing system, 2nd, 3rd edition. The dice mechanic hasn't changed in 4th edition. I just can't endorse 4th edition because Curse of the 4th edition. You have a skill. It is based on one of your statistics and has a number that generally maxes out around about 17, 18. It can go higher, but that's very expensive. And what you need to do is roll 3 die 6, and you want to get under your skill level. If you've got a 3 die 6 will result in a 3 to 18. If you roll a 3, that's a critical success. It's not a great chance to roll a 3 on 3 die 6. 1 in 6 to the 3rd power. Okay, that's not terrible. It means that I have a good chance. A 3 or a 4. So, yeah, I might be able to hit a critical success. I can certainly hit a success if I get my skill level high enough. Sometimes I will fail. If I've got a 15 or 16, chances are I'm going to succeed that roll. I know how competent I am. Yay, I'm pretty good. I can take some penalties and do some tricky stuff. Awesome. If you hit the 18, it's a critical failure, no matter what your skill is. Well, like somewhere between 20 and 25, something ridiculous, and they had to include for super-powered characters. You don't have a critical failure on an 18, just a regular failure, but an 18 fails. Same chance of rolling a 3. Small. You're going to hit middle of the road more often or not, somewhere between 9 and 12. So if your skill level falls over that, then middle of the road, more than often than not, you're going to succeed. It's a bell curve distribution because you're using 3 dice as opposed to, well, using more than 1 die, which gives you some form of bell curve, as opposed to the flat line distribution if you have 1 die. Many systems include something for modifying the probability. Interlock, as I mentioned, there's a luck statistic. You could elect to spend out of that statistic to increase your roll. Again, if you roll the 1, it really doesn't matter, but you could make the difference between a failure and a success that you missed by just a little bit by having spent luck on. You had to state you were spending luck beforehand, which made it not terribly useful. Because you keep hearing, oh, I spend luck on this. Oh, I would have made it without the luck. And luck is a more or less non-renewable resource during the course of the game, so you could burn it to do, I really want to make this happen. I'm going to, I didn't need to spend a luck. GURPS had a luck advantage, so you could roll the dice more than once every so often, once every half hour or once every hour, depending on how many points you put into your luck. And, being able to take rerolls, always a great way to modify your probability. Star Wars, the original D6 system by West End, you had force points. And for this roll, I can spend a force point and I can roll twice as many dice to get to my target number. Great mechanic, nice and simple, very easy. If you spend it selfishly, the force point is gone. If you spend it in a heroic and appropriate way, you get your force point back. If you spend it in an epic way, then you get the force point back and a friend who comes with it, so you can have 2 attempts to do that in the next game. The victory system that I wrote, there's a mechanic called Risk that lets you take rerolls or get bonuses, or both. You can renew it in the middle of a game at some risk. You will take damage, probably, but you can modify probability moving on. These are there because the dice screw you. because you have this character who is super competent or is trying to do something, and this is the thing. This is going to make or break the rest of the adventure. It all comes down to this one roll, and nobody wants to look down and see that is a failure. Nobody wants to look down and see the Eye of Sauron. The One Ring is an amazingly well-researched system. Don't get me wrong. It is very heavy in the lore of Tolkien's Middle-earth. It is one of the best sources of obscure pieces of that lore. An amazing storytelling tool for exploring Middle-earth in ways that Tolkien's fiction and the cinematic movies have not. It's buying real estate in Middle-earth, and in that way, it is amazing. They have saw fit to include a mechanic that lets the dice screw you more. I don't have good dice luck. And the dice are random. The dice are completely random. That is what they are for. Sometimes you can roll them in such a way as to try and couch a specific result. Sometimes you can get a special die that rolls the way you want it to. But in general, for the most part, if you're rolling fair and playing the game the way you're supposed to, the dice are random. And you all know that one guy at your table who cannot roll to save his character's life, literally. Nope, that's a crit fumble. Nope, I rolled the 1. Nope, that's a failure. Over and over and over again. You also know that guy who consistently drops the good numbers. People have good luck and bad dice luck. I can't explain it. I can't describe the process of quantum mechanics that makes probability alter around certain people. True story. A few years ago, like 20. I'm playing Bubblegum Crisis, the fusion system by R. Talsorian Games, with a group of friends in my living room. This is back when our apartment complex had a swimming pool. And one of my friends, let's call him Topher, fusion system, you roll 3d6. And you're trying to get a higher number because you're trying to hit a difficulty. This is a hard task, so it takes a 15. This is an impossible task, so it takes a 20. You roll 3d6 and you add it to your skill level and stat and try and hit that number. And if you roll 18 on 3d6, that is 6, and a 6, that is 1 in 6 to the third power probability of rolling at 18, you get to roll another 2d6 and add that in. That is the result of a critical success in fusion. Elegant and very nice, but Topher was consistently, like 1 out of every 3 rolls, he'd drop the 18 and then he'd back it up with 12. 2 6s on 2d6, 1 in 6 to the 5th power. His dice were clean. He was rolling straight. That was just the kind of luck he had. The Game Master had very similar luck at the time. I miss you, Brian. Brian had insanely good dice luck. That's why I still have some of his dice in my collection. So they were rolling numbers that the rest of us couldn't even see. If their dice numbers were stories and buildings, we were all stuck in the basement looking up trying to see the top. Because 5d6, you're adding 30 to your roll, while the rest of us, if we're lucky, we're adding 10 or 12 if we're doing okay. After about the 4th 5d6, all 6s critical shot from Topher, I informed the group, if that happens again, I am jumping fully clothed into my swimming pool. I took a swim that night. I took my wallet out of my pocket. I'm not stupid. But, yeah. Full run, jump off the edge of the pool, fully clothed, straight in. To make up for that. The next time we played, Topher showed up and said, okay, I feel bad about my good luck. Tell you what, I'm going to make the first roll of the night. Whatever I roll, that is how much I am going to contribute to dinner tonight. And he dropped the 5 6s and rolled a total of 46. And that was very, very good chili that night. I need to make chili again. I have bad dice luck. It has gotten better or worse over time. I have days where my dice luck is better and days where my dice luck is worse. But I don't need a mechanic to make my dice screw me more in game. It makes me really wonder what kind of games these people have had who design games like this, that they sat back and go, you know what this needs? This needs more failure. In a game like Toon, where failure is funny, or Paranoia, where you've got 6 lives essentially, and how your clones are destroyed can lead to style points. Yeah, failure's awesome. That's great. When you are simulating the events of Middle Earth, The Hobbit, yeah, failure has taken a part, and yes, Sauron's eye does fall on someone at an inappropriate time. There wouldn't be a Lord of the Rings story if Isildur hadn't fallen to the ring's influence at the key moment of the ring's potential destruction. That was an eye coming up on the die. But 3 times when you're fighting a troll, when you're supposedly a very competent archer who cannot land a hit to save the party's life, I got 1 shot off. I put an arrow covered in pipeweed up his nose while it was alit, and that allowed us to track him because that was a smell. That was absolutely a smell. But then it was, well, I need a called shot to hit for any kind of effect. Oh, look, I failed. Oh, look, I failed in the eye. Oh, look, I failed. Oh, look, I failed in the eye. Oh, look, I failed. Oh, look, I failed in the eye. That was the rest of my contribution to that fight. And when that is supposedly the peak of competence, you can burn hope to add numbers to that. A depletable resource that does not come back nearly as fast as you're going to spend it. So they do have a probability modifying, but that does not change the fact that the eye has come up. And it only adds a certain number. I had it adding the maximum number it possibly could because of a favored statistic. And my rolls were so bad that it wouldn't have mattered. I could have dropped all the hope I had, and it wouldn't have made a single one of those shots hit, plus which, the eye. It makes for jump up, laughter, and rage at the table, and emotions get high, and there is that roller coaster effect, but past a certain point, you're just screwing the players of the game. If a bad guy rolls a Gandalf on that D12 when they are attacking the party or engaging in their nefarious activities, well, that's good for the party in some way. That is their critical failure. So PCs cannot get an 11 on that die. They get a 0 because it is the eye. NPCs can't, or evil NPCs can't get a 12 because that is a 0 for them and something horrific happens to their side. So while there's balance, there's a way, an extra way, a bonus way for the dice to screw the players. I could be wrong about this. This is my perspective from the eyes of someone who has generally bad dice luck, and who, I don't know, when I make a competent character, a character who is by definition of the game terms competent, to have them fail more often than they succeed, I don't know if failure success ratio is really the best definition of competence. But failure to success ratio is a definition of competence, and failing more often than one succeeds is not the act of a competent person. The way I define it. One edition of D6 Star Wars included the Fate die, which would either give you a greater success or had a greater chance of screwing you up. No one I knew who played with the Fate die liked playing with the Fate die. Oh, I got to roll the Fate die, because that was how you critically fumbled more often than you critically fumbled. Tell you what, explain it to me. In the comments, if you have a love of the additional failure mechanic in a dice mechanic, let me know why. Let me know why that is a better experience than the regular chances of my characters to fail, and how it is important that failure be a larger part of your game. In Call of Cthulhu, yeah, your skill numbers are never going to be that high, and failing is kind of what ultimately that game is all about. You're going to die or go insane. Lord of the Rings, Star Wars. If you have a better perspective on this, let me know in the comments. I invite discussion on this topic, because my view might be a little controversial. It might not. I don't think the dice need an extra way to screw you, because dice do that all on their own just fine. Everyone has that dice shaming moment where, well, I tried to turn and, well, the cleric critically fumbled and we were piled under by zombies. Everyone's got their dice shaming moment without the necessity of an additional the dice can screw you more mechanic. This might also just be me venting my frustration about my super budget Legolas woodland elf not being able to shoot a friggin' troll in the nostril for an entire combat. Well, thank you for following me along on this particular rant. If you liked the video, give me a thumbs up. If you didn't like the video, give me a thumbs down. I would like your experiences and your comments and your opinions on the failure die, or the additional die failure mechanic. Do the dice need an extra knife to put in your back at the worst possible moment? Let me know if there's anything else you'd like to talk about, or you have your own bad experiences with a dice failure mechanic. Leave me a comment. I'll love leaving a comment. You'll love giving me one. If you have not yet subscribed to my channel, why not? My channel is awesome. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button. When you do, if you'd like to get these notifications as soon as my videos come out, hit the little notification bell next to the subscribe button. If you would like to help my channel in a more substantial way, I invite you to hit me up my Patreon page, www.patreon.com/ScottCorum, and consider donating. Absolutely anything helps and allows me to make better videos more often. In the meantime, thank you very much for watching. I'm Scott Corum. This is what has mattered to me, and I will see you next time in the next Matters of DeCorum.